In this video, I'm going to discuss Python's decision structure and Boolean logic. A little bit of background about the way we programmed until now was we used the sequence of code in order to define what the output of a program is going to look like. So control structure is basically a logical designs that controls the order in which a set of statements are going to get executed. So far we used the sequence. Let's say we will get an input about a name, and then we'll print that information, and then we will get an input about the age, and then we'll print a statement related to that. So we're following a sequence of steps. This is typically defined in a way that a programmer has designed a program. But this might not be ideal in all situations. In most cases, we want to give this control structure, we're going to give control to the person who is using our program. And a decision structure in its simplest form is basically when we are providing an output based on the input that has been provided. So in a conditional execution, we basically make a decision based on the input that has been provided. So in this case, the programmer is no longer deciding when the code will execute. It's the person who's writing, who's using that program. Let's go through a simple example. Let's say we receive an information, we get names. We say if the name is equal to Isaac, then print hello professor. Otherwise, just print welcome to Python or welcome to this course. This is an example. This flowchart basically shows that we will make a decision based on the input that's provided. And if a condition is met, we are going to do a certain course of action. So this is called a conditional execution of a statement. So what is a condition? Basically, in a condition, we're dealing with Boolean variables that are assigned true or false. So we are checking a condition, and the outcome of that condition could be true or false. Let's say these are some examples. Let's say we have a counter if is less than 100. And we're checking that condition with this format. Let's say we have a variable called sales, and we want to check if the sales has been at least $30,000. Let's say that's our minimum threshold. Or we want to check a temperature and see if a temperature is cool. Or let's say we receive temperature and we have a threshold and we check if that threshold is met or not. Think about the way a thermostat would work. So you set a temperature, let's say 70, and if it gets colder than 70, the thermostat will start working. So if the condition is met, let's say a true condition, a true value has been received, then a certain action is going to be executed. Or you're checking if the time is 10 a.m. Let's say you're setting a clock. If the time is equal to 10, ring an alarm. All right, so these are examples of some of the operators. You might have seen some of these previously or in other programming languages. We talked about two values being literally equal to each other, which we use two equal signs. So it is x equal to y. And we have the opposite that can be represented by x not being equal to y. So this is basically not being equal to. This is the reverse condition. We also can say x is greater than y, and the opposite is going to be x is less or equal to y. And then these are just other conditions that can be met. So we can say x is less or equal than y, and the reverse condition would be the opposite condition going to be x is equal to y. So this is some sort of a conditional structure. So we are setting a condition, and if, let's say, these conditions are met, do one action. If these conditions are met, do a different type of action. So how do we do this in Python? We use an if statement. The general structure is in this format. We say if state, if condition 1, then statement, or whatever you want to do with if that condition is met. This could be hundreds of lines of code or one line. In the first line we use the if clause that ends with a colon. So the first line starts with colon, and once we have a statement, what we do is that we do use a tab or 4 spaces, basically use an indentation in order to specify a block of code that's related to that condition. Let's say the example that we had. So let me just go back to this. So we said if the name is equal to Isaac, say hello professor, otherwise say welcome to Python. So now if you want to use an if statement, we can say A is equal to input provide name. If the name is literally equal to Isaac, use an indentation to represent a block of code here. Print hello professor. Otherwise, print welcome to a new session. Let me see if I can run this quickly. This is an example of the code. So I'm just going to run this in an idle. It might be a little tiny. Okay, so once I run this code, I can give it different values. Let's say the name is John and it says welcome to new session. So basically it will skip this step. So because the condition was not met, it just skipped to the next block of code. And if, let's try it again. Now we can say, I'm going to run this code again. Let me close this off. And if I'm putting the name equal to Isaac, I will say it will go through because the condition is met. It will print hello professor. And also because this is in a different block, this is another step, it's also going to print welcome to new session. So the difference was if the name is not Isaac, it will skip that whole block. And that's why we're using a condition. All right, so this is when if we have only one condition, but in most cases we might need to compare between different conditions and use different actions. Let me go back to a flowchart. Let's say we want to check sales. Let's say we have salesmen and we want to check their monthly sales. If it's greater than 5,000, it probably should be reversed to make it more logical. If the if the sales are greater than 5,000, if that condition is met, we just calculate and print their bonus, so print total sales. If it's less than 5,000, so if the condition is false, we say work harder, but also we will print the total sales. So unless they make, let's say, more than 5,000 sales, there's not going to be a bonus, you see? So we're gonna skip that. Okay, so how do we do this? We use, in addition to if statement, we use else. So the first line is going to be if and the condition that we set using the colon. And the second line we use indentation again. And the third line is going to be, or the third block is going to be else. Again, colon, and we write the statement that is going to be, or the action we want the program to take if this other condition is met. Or basically we say if the outcome of this condition is true, do this, otherwise, so if the condition, if the output of that condition is false, do the second statement. If the condition is not met, do the second statement. So that's what. So how many else we can write? As many as we want. So this is comparing between two conditions, but we might need to compare between more than two conditions. In this example, we're checking if sales greater than 5,000 do this. But let's see, if somebody has sold more than 15,000 in a month, we might want to use a different bonus calculation for that person. Let's say an extra incentive. So we're running an extra condition on this. And we can use an else clause in order to do that. We will go through examples, a few examples to make sure that's clear. A few words about indentation in Python. It's very important because Python basically understands a block of code based on indentation, and if you don't use proper indentation, you will get an indentation error. We might go through some examples in class where we will try to intentionally get this error and see how it works. And by indentation, we mean adding some space. So basically, you use a tab key or 4 spaces in order to show indentation. Basically, specify a block of code. Let's say we have a statement, we have if condition, we have another if condition. This is called nested if. We'll go through this in the future. And then we have else statement, and we have another statement. So if we're using these indentation, basically this is the way that an interpreter will understand this. So we have the first block of code. If statement goes through, again, first block of code. We're doing indentation. This is the second block. And then another indentation. So this is the third block. Then we're moving back. So we have an if and else at the same level. So this is still block 2. Another statement. So this is block 3. And then we're moving back 2 times. This goes back to the first block. So this is the way this code is going to be interpreted in Python programming. Again, as I mentioned, we're going to go through several examples to make sure these are going to be clear for you.